And welcome back to EDH Deck Building. I am your host, Demo, and red enchantments are just really crazy in the format of Commander. This is sort of a one-off video that I'm doing. I'm just talking about red enchantments in this video, and particularly ones that are just wacky and crazy. This is not a top 10 list or anything like that. I'm not necessarily recommending any of these cards. It's just a lot of fun, interesting cards that all happen to be red enchantments that I've come across through my travels that I'm mentioning almost more for entertainment value than anything else. But if you can find a way to use them in your decks, that's great too. I just find that in particular, red enchantments tend to be really wacky and crazy. I think we're all familiar with cards like Possibility Storm and Confusion in the Ranks. Obviously, these cards really have a crazy and wacky outcome in a Commander game. In particular, Possibility Storm works great in the Mishra deck. Confusion in the Ranks works great in a Norin the Wary deck. And then, of course, you have the even more infamous sort of hate cards in red, like Repercussion and Price of Glory. Everyone's probably familiar with cards like that. I'm talking about a little more lesser known and wacky things, like some of the cards I've mentioned in my 10 cards videos, like Brand of Ill Omen, 3 in a red Aura enchant creature, has cumulative upkeep, pay 1 red, and enchanted creature's controller can't cast creature spells. I mean, what a weird card. You just cast this on one of your opponent's creatures, and then that player can't cast creature spells. Very weird. Burning Sands and Dwarven Armory are 2 more that I've mentioned in my 10 cards videos that are very kind of specific in what they're doing. I think they can definitely find a place in the right deck. Very weird though. Dwarven Armory especially. Sacrifice a land to put a +2/+2 counter on target creature, and you activate only during any upkeep step. So on your upkeep or any other player's upkeep. Some of these cards are just so weird and wacky. I just find them hilarious, but also can be really good. Chaos Moon is another one I mentioned in my 10 cards videos. I mean, if you can find a place for it in your deck, that's great because it can be really good, right? It's going to double the amount of mana your mountains produce and also going to give your team +1/+1. But then, of course, it can also be a drawback as well, depending on whether or not there is an odd or even amount of permanence in play. Another really crazy one that is maybe a little lesser known is Pandemonium, and the name is very fitting here. 3 in a red enchantment. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield, that creature's controller may have it deal damage equal to its power to any target. So that can really throw the game into a ridiculous melee, as you could probably tell from the art. The art is very fitting for what's going on here, right? Every time a creature enters the battlefield, for any player, they can now shoot a target equal to that creature's power, so that can really throw the game into a crazy mix. But of course, where red really shines with their wacky enchantments is in combat. There's a whole bunch of them, like Grand Melee, of course, is the most notable one. 3 in a red enchantment. All creatures have to attack. All creatures have to block. A little bit lesser known is Invasion Plans, which I just mentioned in one of my 10 cards videos. 2 in a red enchantment. All creatures block each combat if able, so it only has the blocking aspect, but also the attacking player chooses how each creature blocks each combat. So probably if you put Grand Melee in your deck, you might want to include this as well. If you're in any red deck where there's a sort of a combat tricks element, a lot of these cards I'm going to mention can probably fit there. How about Chaos Sphere? 2 in a red World Enchantment. So again, with the World Enchantment, and again, for those who don't know, you can only have 1 World Enchantment in play at a time. Creatures with flying can block only creatures with flying. So in other words, creatures with flying can't block non-flying creatures, right? Creatures without flying have reach. So this gives you an advantage to your non-flying creatures, right? If you have a Krenko deck or some deck where you don't have any flying creatures, this is all advantage for you. And then for the dragon deck, they're not going to be able to block your creatures. So this actually can be pretty good in some decks. Speaking of blocking, of course, we got Bedlam, 2 red enchantment. Creatures can't block. That's it. So if you want to go in the other direction, instead of encouraging blocking, they just can't block. So if you just want to get in for damage, this is a great way to do it. How about Heat of Battle? This is an interesting one. 1 in a red enchantment. Whenever a creature blocks, Heat of Battle deals 1 damage to that creature's controller. So this is going to work probably better with the Invasion Plans Grand Melee strategy, maybe, right? I'm not exactly sure where you use these cards. They are very unique and interesting, and I'm sure there's a place for them. This is discouraging blocking, right? So when you attack, if a creature blocks, that creature's controller is going to take 1 damage, right? So this is more discouraging blocking. No Quarter is an interesting one. Again, we're still in the combat theme. There's lots of these. 3 in a red enchantment. Whenever a creature becomes blocked by a creature with lesser power, destroy the blocking creature. Also, though, whenever a creature blocks a creature with lesser power, destroy the attacking creature. So basically, this is hating on small creatures. You attack with your creature. If they block with a creature with lesser power, you're going to destroy that creature, right? You're going to destroy the blocking creature. Also, if they attack you and you block and that creature has lesser power, right? Your creature has the bigger power. You're going to destroy the attacking creature. So basically, no matter what the scenario is, the creature with the lesser power is going to get destroyed here. Which, you know, it would anyway in combat. If you block the 1/1 creature with a 4/4 creature, that creature is going to die anyway. Here it's getting destroyed before combat damage is dealt, though. So maybe you could play into that strategy a little. It's a very weird card. I'm not sure exactly how you would use it. Heatstroke, another one I mentioned in my 10 cards video that I actually really like a lot. 2 and a red enchantment. At the end of combat, destroy each creature that blocked or was blocked this turn. So this is just going to destroy all of them, right? If there's any blocking going on at all, both creatures are going to die. So that is a very usable ability, I think, for sure. Especially if you're in a deck like, I don't know, the Hazaret deck that I made. This could be a great fit because you have an indestructible commander, right? If you have an indestructible commander, then you don't have to worry about this. You can just go nuts and any creature that blocks you is going to get destroyed. Any creature that you block is going to get destroyed. Your commander is going to be fine, obviously. Tajik, Blade of the Legion, is another one that I think this works great in. Again, because he's indestructible, right? But you could even just throw this in your deck if you just want to cause a lot of chaos during combat. Hand to Hand is another one that you can use in a combat-heavy deck. 2 and a red enchantment. During combat, players can't cast instant spells or activate abilities that aren't mana abilities. So essentially, they can't do anything unless you have a creature with flash or you have a Leyline of Anticipation out or something like that. You basically can't cast spells and you can't activate abilities during combat, which of course is going to be great in a lot of situations. So this is another card that you might want to give consideration in that heavy combat deck. Total War, another one I mentioned in my 10 cards video, is 3 and a red enchantment. Whenever a player attacks with one or more creatures, destroy all untapped non-wall creatures that player controls that didn't attack, except for creatures that player hasn't controlled continuously since the beginning of the turn. So in other words, if they have summoning sickness, it doesn't count, or if they are a wall. Interestingly enough, they didn't errata this card to say Defender on it, which they probably should have. So you can destroy non-wall creatures with Defender, and there are a few. Basically what this card does, and I know there are similar cards to what this one does, but this one in particular, the way it works is you either attack with all of your creatures or you don't attack at all, which can be really good. Getting towards the end of this list is some really wacky ones like Custody Battle, 1 and a red enchantment aura again. Enchant creature. Enchanted creature has, at the beginning of your upkeep, target opponent gains control of this creature unless you sacrifice a land. So you put this on a creature, now they have to let someone else gain control of that creature unless they sacrifice a land. So if they want to keep that creature, they have to continually sacrifice a land every turn. This can also be good where you put it on your own creature because you want to donate it. You can put this on a creature of yours, at the beginning of your upkeep, you forego sacrificing the land so that you can give the creature to your opponent. It's an interesting card that way. In a commander game, it can be really fun. How about Risky Move? This is a card that, again, I came across, I had never seen before, and it's so bizarre. 3 red enchantments, so 6 mana. At the beginning of each player's upkeep, that player gains control of Risky Move. When you gain control of Risky Move from another player, choose a creature you control and an opponent. Flip a coin. If you lose the flip, that opponent gains control of that creature. So basically what's happening here is people are going to gain control of the enchantment, the Risky Move. Then when they do, they're going to flip a coin. And if they lose the flip, an opponent of their choice gains control of a creature of their choice. So they have to donate a creature to an opponent. Again, that could be good if you're in a deck where you want to donate stuff. I mean, maybe in a coin flipping deck, this could be good. I don't know. This is a tough one for sure. I mean, you definitely could throw this into a chaos deck if you just want to throw the game into a blender and have a lot of fun with it. How you use this to your advantage, though, can be a little tough. The interesting wording here is when you gain control of Risky Move from another player. So if you do donate, like if you're in a Zedru deck, for example, you don't have to wait for the at the beginning of of upkeep trigger, you can just donate it, and when they gain control of it, this will automatically trigger. And then, of course, it will keep doing so on each player's upkeep. Very weird card. How do you exactly use this? I don't know. Could be fun in a commander game, though. Next up, we got Planar Chaos, 2 and a red enchantment. At the beginning of your upkeep, flip a coin. If you lose the flip, sacrifice Planar Chaos. So again, in a coin flipping deck, it might be worth it to put this in there just because, you know, you get the free coin flips. And if you're getting benefits out of them, that might work for you. When a player casts a spell, that player flips a coin. If they lose the flip, counter that spell. So if you get out of the chaos theme for a minute, I mean, obviously this could work great in a chaos deck, but even, you know, the at the beginning of your upkeep thing, like I say about cumulative upkeep all the time, you can play a card and you don't have to pay the upkeep until all of your opponents have gotten their turn first. So you slap this down, 3 mana, and it sits there even for just 1 turn. If it sits there, now all of your opponents now have to play their turn, flipping coins and possibly countering their own spells. If you can even get 1 spell countered off of this in a turn cycle, might be worth it. And if it gets back around to your turn, you lose the flip, you sacrifice it, okay, well now you can just play your turn normally and you don't have to worry about your stuff getting countered, right? So this actually can be a very usable card. And I saved the best for last. This is one of the wackiest cards I've ever seen. It's definitely one of those cards that likens to sort of the way the game was played back in the day, Raging River. And of course, you absolutely have to read the errata text here, and it is a mouthful. So buckle up for this one. Whenever one or more creatures you control attack, each defending player divides all creatures without flying they control into a left pile and a right pile. So before I move on, let's dissect that, right? Whenever you attack each defending player, so if you're only attacking one person, this only applies to that person. If you're attacking multiple people, this applies to all of them. Divide all creatures they control without flying, because a flying creature isn't going to be affected by a raging river, obviously, into a left pile and a right pile. Then, for each attacking creature you control, choose left or right. Defending player, they pick their piles. They make the left and right piles. Then for each of your creatures, you choose left or right after they've made their piles, right? That creature can't be blocked this combat except by creatures with flying and creatures in a pile with the chosen label. So basically what happens is the defending player puts all their creatures into those 2 piles, and then you choose the pile that only creatures from that pile can block, assuming they don't have flying. This is a card that I think you could probably just throw in a deck, maybe where you're attacking lots, and it's just kind of a fun, interesting situation to get into every time you attack, where your opponent has to figure out which pile. I don't know how much of a difference it's going to make. Maybe it will, depending on flying or non-flying creatures, or what creatures have death touch or first strike or something like that. Can be pretty interesting. Can this see some play in the format? I don't know. I mean, if there's anyone out there that actually has this in a deck and uses it, comment below, because I'd love to know. If anyone has any of these cards in their commander decks, the really wacky ones, comment below where you're using it and how. I'm really interested. I'm sure everyone else is as well. But just thought I'd make a video about these insane red enchantments that I just keep coming across that really just throw the game into a crazy situation where maybe at the very least just makes your opponents really think about what they're doing before they act, which can sometimes be good as well. But that is it for today, and thanks for tuning in.